Welcome to 5 Good Minutes.
You're listening to today's inspirational message on the book of Ecclesiastes with Dan Irvin.
Well, today, as we jump back into Ecclesiastes chapter 10, I want to look at verses 8 through 11 today. Verse 8, whoever digs a pit may fall into it. Whoever breaks through a wall may be bitten by a snake. Whoever quarries stones may be injured by them. Whoever splits logs may be endangered by them. If the axe is dull and its edge unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success. If a snake bites before it is charmed, the charmer receives no fee. Vivid imagery here about work, digging pits, breaking walls, splitting logs. You know, these ordinary, everyday tasks might seem straightforward, but I think there's an underlying truth here that these verses are getting at. Work is risky. If you dig a pit, you might fall in. If you tear down a wall, the stones could collapse in on you. And this is more than just about splitting wood and tasks. It's about how we live and how we approach the work that God has called us to, whatever it may be. I think these verses invite us to reflect on the risk, the reward, and the reality of the way we work in the middle of a broken world. So let's start here for a moment and look back. You know, work was part of God's original creation. Back in the Genesis account, when God created the world, he gave Adam and Eve meaningful work. He gave them the garden to tend for, to care for. Work was never meant to be a burden in God's design. It was meant to bring joy and purpose. It was a way to participate in God's creation. But in Ecclesiastes, we see something. It reminds us that work, like everything else, has been affected by sin, marked by frustration, difficulty, risk. Even in the most ordinary of tasks, we can experience the brokenness of the world. And we see this warning about a dull axe that requires more effort to cut through wood, but a sharpened axe makes the task easier. Have you ever started a project at your house or at work and realized, man, this would be a lot easier if I just had the right tools? You know, how often do we rush into our work without taking the time to sharpen our tools, to find the right tools, whether it's our skills, our relationships, our hearts before God? I think a principle here is that neglect leads to exhaustion. But here's the thing, and whether it's our work, our career, I think it's about all of our life. This isn't just about work or career. I think it's all encompassing. Every task, every relationship, every calling, these are opportunities to live for a greater purpose. But if we approach these opportunities without care, without wisdom, without preparation, the risks become great. So where can that leave us? Where can that point us? Well, Ecclesiastes paints this sobering picture of work. There's risk, frustration, uncertainty, but the gospel of Jesus, the good news, gives us something that Ecclesiastes could only hint at. It's this word hope. You know, think about Jesus for a moment. He came into this world, a broken world where work was cursed, and he took on the ultimate task, the work of redemption. On the cross, he accomplished what we never could. He bridged the gap between God and us. And because of that, everything has changed. We no longer have to work to prove ourselves or to earn our worth. In Christ, we can know our identity is secure. We're already loved, already accepted, already valued. And that means we can approach work in a different way, whether it's in our office, in our house, with relationships. We can approach work with humility and purpose. Look at 1 Corinthians 15, verse 58. Paul writes this: always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. You see, it's only when we work in the Lord, when we view it in the lens of the gospel, that our work can be transformed. It's no longer striving for our own success, or just avoiding failure. It's about being faithful, trusting that God is at work even in the most mundane tasks of life. Years ago, Tim Keller wrote a book, Every Good Endeavor, talking about the work that we do and how that intersects with the life that God has called us to. He wrote this in his book. These are his words. He says, "Everyone will be forgotten. Nothing we do will make any difference, and all good endeavors, even the best, will come to naught, unless there is a God. If the God of the Bible exists and there is a true reality beneath and behind this one, and this life is not the only life, then every good endeavor, even the simplest ones, pursued in response to God's calling, can matter forever." Work it's risky, it's tiring, it's frustrating, but it can be meaningful. When we sharpen the tools that God's given us, when we prepare our hearts, when we pursue wisdom and trust God, we can find true purpose and meaning in the very seemingly mundane tasks that God has given us to do. He's given them to us to enjoy when we trust that His greater good is at work.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.